Hello friends, welcome to Dr. Jenkins Academy. In today's lecture, I will discuss about the pharmacology of calcium channel blockers. What are their therapeutic uses where these can be, these kind of drugs can be used. Okay, so let's start. In this video, first of all, I will just discuss about the different kind of the calcium channels, brief description. Then I will discuss about the calcium channel blockers. And particularly I will focus on the L type of the calcium channels. Okay, then I will discuss the uses, side effects and contraindications of these calcium channel blockers. So now, first of all, what are the different types of the calcium channels? A very important and widely spread calcium channels, they belong to this category. That means they are the voltage sensitive calcium channel. As the name indicates, these channels are sensitive to changes in the voltage, potential difference. Okay, so these channels, they open due to changes in the voltage. What kind of the change in the voltage? Mainly the whenever the depolarization take place. Normally, you know, the resting membrane potential is around minus 90 millivolt. So when it becomes relatively less negative, like minus 40 millivolt, so then these channels open. So channels which is open due to the changes in the voltage changes, particularly due to the depolarization. Second, the channels that are activated whenever some ligand, some agonist binds to the receptor. Okay, so the receptor, these channels are linked to the receptors so that the calcium moves inside after binding to some agonist. Then there are some leak channels, stretched sensitive channels. That means whenever the membrane is stretched, okay, so that these channels, they are opened and the calcium start moving inside. So they are called as the leak channels. So obviously not the massive inflow of the calcium, there is a small increase in the calcium that goes inside the cell. So this is a different type of the cells, but we will focus mainly on this one in this topic, voltage sensitive, because these are most widely spread, voltage sensitive calcium channels. So if we see, these again can be classified into three subtypes. One type is called as T type. T stands for transient. Transient means for a short period of time. That means these channels, when they open, the current means the calcium which is moving, that is for a short period of time. Transient current is there. So another property of these T type of calcium channel is low threshold channels. That means these channels, they open very easily, low threshold, and these are widely present on the thalamus, in the thalamus region in the brain, very widely present. And when these channels open, the calcium which moves is called as T current. And if you remember, there is a very important role of these T type calcium channels, this T current, in the pathophysiology of a type of epilepsy which is called as absence seizures. Now some drugs which inhibit this T type calcium channels, like ethosuximide, okay, there is valproic acid, there is flunarizine. Okay. Second kind is the N type. N stands for neuronal. So they are mainly located on the neurons. And if you compare these two, these are low threshold, these are medium threshold. Okay. So now the inhibitors like conotoxins. We will not discuss much about these one. They are not very widely used. Now, the very important category of calcium channel that we are going to discuss in today's lecture is the L type. L means long lasting. So if you see the difference between this L and T, this is a transient current. Okay, this is long lasting. Short period, long period. This is the major difference. Now these are widely distributed in the body, like on the different kind of the smooth muscles, like on the blood vessels, on the heart, and these are high threshold. Again, I am just repeating: low threshold, medium threshold, high threshold. Now, as I told, they are most widely exploited calcium channels in the clinical sector. And now the inhibitors that we will discuss: nifedipine, verapamil, diltiazem, and like others. So The whole chapter now will be focused on L-type. Okay? L-type calcium channel blockers. In the short, we use a word CCB, calcium channel blockers. So now, if you discuss about the calcium channel blockers, they are classified into three types depending upon their chemical structure. Okay, so this is the chemical classification. Phenylalkylamine, that means there is an amine group, there is a phenyl benzene with the phenyl and alkyl. Now the prototype drug is verapamil. And the important property, verapamil blocks calcium channels in the heart as well as in the blood vessels. You have to remember this thing, because we will discuss about whenever you will discuss verapamil, you must know where these act. These act on heart as well as on the blood vessels. Then second category, benzothiazepine. This is again a chemical structure. Now the prototype drug is diltiazem. It is also same like that of verapamil. It blocks the channels in the heart as well as in the blood vessels. Third type, dihydropyridines. Now this category, dihydropyridine, is very widely exploited. That is why a number of drugs have been there in this category. New drugs are coming after every year. Now I'm just naming some drugs, and at the end I will discuss some few important points about these drugs. Nifedipine, nicardipine, amlodipine, felodipine. You can say there is a similarity: pine, nimodipine, lecidipine, kilnidipine, lercanidipine, nitrandipine. And a very important thing, now they block channels only in the blood vessels, not on the heart. You have to remember this thing. This class is vasoselective, only on the blood vessels. So you can see three classes: verapamil, diltiazem, and nifedipine we say dihydropyridine like drugs. Coming down to the next one. Now some other differences. I told some of the differences, some other differences. This dihydropyridines, which is you can, in short you can say DHPs, they are lipophilic chemically and they are most potent. That means they block calcium channels even in the very lesser doses. They are relatively, both verapamil and diltiazems, they are relatively hydrophilic and they are less potent. They need higher dose. Now I will discuss the pharmacological actions of these calcium channel blockers. Okay, so the major important thing obviously in the cardiovascular system is the heart. Now if you give calcium channel blockers, they will not allow calcium to move inside the cell. They block the entry of the calcium inside the cell. So if the calcium is not moving inside the cell, obviously you can see all the things will be decreased. All the things mean decrease in the heart contractility, because you know calcium is required for the heart contraction. Calcium is not there, so contraction will not take place, or it will be feeble. Heart contractility is reduced, and this term is called as negative inotropic effect. Then heart rate is also reduced, so this is called as negative chronotropic effect. Conduction, particularly in the AV nodal conduction, because this AV nodal conduction depends on opening of the calcium channels. If calcium channels do not open, then this conduction velocity will be reduced. So this is important thing you have to remember. But again you have to remember, these are the effects produced by verapamil and diltiazem. Now, not by dihydropyridine like nifedipine, amlodipine, nicardipine, not by those, just by verapamil and diltiazem. Now, if you see these effects, you have read about the beta blockers also. You can see these effects are very similar to like that of the beta blockers. So, what is the precaution that you have to take? So, if you are combining two drugs, beta blocker and verapamil, so both the drugs are reducing heart contractility, both the drugs are reducing heart rate. So what will happen? The combination of beta blocker or verapamil or beta blocker or diltiazem have a profound decrease in the heart rate, contraction and conduction velocity. So do not combine these two drugs which are having a negative effect on the heart. This combination and this combination is not used. But I will tell in the subsequent slides, this combination, beta blocker and dihydropyridine is very useful combination. Okay, this one and this one. Reason, this is having a heart blocking activity, not this one. I will discuss this thing in the next slide. Now, so you understand effect on the heart. Coming down to the another very important effect on the blood vessels. So you know calcium is required for the contraction. If calcium is not moving inside, there is a relaxation. Heart, blood vessels will relax. So this is the mechanism. If there is a decrease in the calcium, interaction between the actin and myosin is reduced, which leads to the relaxation. Now, important thing. If you compare the arteries and the veins, where the effect is higher, so they are having a more profound effect on the arteries. That means they dilate the arteries and less effect on the veins. Remember this thing. And if you remember the previous lecture, ACE inhibitors or AT1 receptor blockers, they produce dilation of both arteries as well as vein. But calcium channel blockers, they have effect only on the arteries. Now the drugs. This vasorelaxation can be produced by verapamil, diltiazem and dihydropyridine. All three they produce vasorelaxation. But because as I told previously, this category is more potent. Okay, so you can say the effect of dihydropyridine is more than the non-dihydropyridine. That means the effect of this one is higher than the diltiazem or verapamil on the blood vessels. Third, some other smooth muscles I will see. So now this will come into some other uses or the side effects, like they produce relaxation on other smooth muscles and sphincters. Like in the GIT, they produce the relaxation. If relaxation is there, peristalsis will not take place. It will be decreased. If peristalsis is not there, so what is the side effect? Constipation is a major side effect of these calcium channel blockers. Now, there is a esophageal sphincter, lower esophageal, because esophagus is connected to the stomach and there is a sphincter. So now what they do, they relax these lower sphincter. So what will happen now, the contents of the stomach can move in the upward direction from stomach to the esophagus. So if it moves in the upward direction, then it produces a complication which is called as GERD, G-E-R-D. Okay, gastroesophageal reflux. So that is not a good thing. They also relax the urinary bladder. So what is the problem? Difficulty in the urine passage. They also reduce the uterine contractility in the late pregnancy at the time of labor. So they can be used in delaying the premature labor. If the labor onset is prior to time, you can use. So these things we will discuss in the subsequent slides in the form of the uses or the side effects. So remember the side effect: constipation, GERD, esophagus related and the urinary bladder related. Now I will discuss the side effects of first. I am saying the verapamil and diltiazem. Okay, remember this thing. Nausea, bradycardia, very important side effect, decrease in the heart rate. They produce conduction defect because they reduce the conduction, AV conduction. So if person is having a second degree block or third degree conduction block, okay, already there is a conduction defect, and if you are giving verapamil, more reduction in the conduction velocity. So that is why they are contraindicated in these kind of the patient if there is a conduction defect. They reduce the heart contractility. So if the person is already suffering from congestive heart failure and the contractility is very low and you give verapamil, so may be problematic. Okay, so care has to be taken. You have to see the condition, then add CCP. Constipation, as I told in the previous slide, there are some drug interactions. Don't give with beta blockers. Okay, because they increase the cardiac depressant actions. and don't give some with other drugs which also reduce the cardiac activity like quinidine. It is also a cardiac depressant. Now side effects of nifedipine like drugs. Now these are very important side effects if you read: palpitation, flushing, dizziness, hypotension and headache. All these things are related with the potent vasodilation. And particularly these side effects are related to this drug, nifedipine, and less with other dihydropyridine. I will discuss why. Okay, nifedipine, palpitation, flushing, dizziness, hypotension and headache. Okay. Then there is a ankle edema. Ankle edema is there with all actually, nifedipine and diltiazem also. Then difficulty in urine voiding, as I told, in the elderly males due to relaxant effect on the urinary bladder. Then worsening of gastroesophageal reflux that I was discussing, GERD, gastroesophageal reflux, because the lower esophageal sphincter is relaxed, the contents of GIT moves in the upward direction. Constipation. Now I am discussing this peculiar thing. Nifedipine produces the tachycardia. I told dihydropyridine like drugs, they have no effect on the heart. Okay, verapamil reduces the heart rate, but these drugs, nifedipine, can paradoxically increase the heart rate. It can produce the tachycardia. How? So when you give nifedipine, it is a fast acting drug. Okay, so it will reduce the blood pressure very rapidly. So there is a rapid reduction in the blood pressure, and you know there is a homeostasis which is maintained in our body. So there is a very fast decrease in the blood pressure. There is a reflex activation of the baroreceptor system, baroreceptor reflex. This baroreceptor reflex will try to increase the heart rate in a so that blood pressure can be normalized. So, but this effect is shown by the nifedipine like drugs which is fast acting, but not by those drugs which act slowly like amlodipine. So what is the precaution while using nifedipine? Let's say you are having a patient of angina pectoris, there is a pain in the chest, okay, and you give nifedipine. What will happen? Nifedipine, if you are giving, nifedipine will increase the heart rate. Okay, if the heart rate is increased, so myocardial oxygen demand is increased. As a result, what will happen? Angina will worsen. So, the nifedipine may worsen the condition of angina pectoris because of this tachycardia, because of increase in the myocardial oxygen demand. That is why I have written should not be given alone in the angina pectoris. So, what we should do? Give the drug which reduce tachycardia like beta blocker. So if you want to give nifedipine in the angina pectoris, give a combination with beta blocker. So this is the thing with the nifedipine which produces the reflex tachycardia because of the profound and rapid decrease in the blood pressure. Now what are the therapeutic uses of these calcium channel blockers? Angina pectoris, hypertension, cardiac arrhythmias, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, Raynaud's phenomenon, then to delay premature labor and cerebral vasospasm. I will discuss all these uses one by one. First of all, angina pectoris. You know angina pectoris is of three types. So I will discuss each type separately. First of all, I will discuss the exertional angina, classical or stable angina. So there is one formula which is called as double product, DP. Okay. What is the use of this DP? DP is an indirect measure of myocardial oxygen demand. What is the meaning of this thing? It means if a person comes to in your clinic, okay, you want to know what is the demand of the heart. How you will calculate the oxygen demand of that person? So you will calculate the oxygen demand of that person by noting the double product. So what is that? Double product is equal to measure the this is an arrow. Calculate the blood, multiply the blood pressure with the heart rate. Sorry, this is not cardiac output, this is heart rate. Heart rate multiplied by blood pressure. So what will happen? If you give calcium channel blockers, they reduce double product. How? By reducing the heart rate. Again I am telling, this is not cardiac output, this is heart rate. They reduce heart rate, they reduce the blood pressure. So these, they reduce double product, they reduce the myocardial oxygen demand. As I told previously, nifedipine alone is contraindicated. And what are the drugs which are preferred? Verapamil, diltiazem, amlodipine, they are the drugs which are used. Okay, so these are the drugs which are very useful in the exertional angina. Second kind, variant angina, which is also called as Prinzmetal angina. Again, the calcium channel blockers, they are the drug of choice in this angina. Why? If you know the pathophysiology, there is a vasospasm in the coronary arteries in this Prinzmetal angina. And calcium channel blockers, they overcome the vasospasm, they dilate the coronary arteries and restore the blood supply to the heart region. And what is the drug which is preferred? Diltiazem as a coronary vasodilator is preferred in this variant angina. And remember, you can see this link in the description section. Beta blockers are contraindicated in this kind of angina. Calcium channel blockers are preferred, but don't give beta blocker. So you can see in the description section about the beta blockers and variant angina. Then unstable angina or myocardial infarction. In the unstable angina, calcium channel blockers are not the first line agents. Not first line agents. They can be used as add-on therapy. Add-on therapy means you are giving some drugs, you are not getting the full relief, you add one more drug. That is add-on therapy. And what are the drugs which are preferred in the unstable angina? You give nitrates, you give beta blockers, you give antiplatelet drugs. These are the primary drugs. But if you see the person is not having a full response, you can add calcium channel blockers. In the myocardial infarction, what is the status? They are not the drug of choice, they are not the preferred agents. Because it is found that if you give calcium channel blockers, there is no benefit on the mortality. Mortality rate, death rate is not reduced. And so where it can be used? Let's say you are having a case of myocardial infarction. You want to give beta blocker because they are very effective, but you cannot give beta blocker because they are contraindicated. In that condition, you can give the calcium channel blocker. So this is what I have written. May be used if beta blockers are contraindicated. Coming down to the hypertension, very important use. They are the first line agents in the hypertension. Very effective, particularly in the elderly persons. They are safe in pregnancy. Okay, but you have to remember that if it is at the end of the pregnancy, okay, so what they can produce a little decrease in the uterine contraction. So this thing you have to remember, decrease in uterine contraction at the end of pregnancy. Otherwise, they are found to be relatively safe in pregnancy. Now, if you want to treat hypertension, what are the drugs which are preferred? Dihydropyridine derivatives like amlodipine, they are preferred over verapamil and diltiazem. Now, what is the mechanism? If you give verapamil and diltiazem, they reduce cardiac output, they reduce peripheral resistance. Peripheral resistance because they produce vasodilation. They reduce cardiac output by reducing the heart rate and heart contractility. But if you give this dihydropyridine, they are having only effect on the blood vessels. They produce vasodilation and reduce resistance. No effect on the cardiac output. And that is why we prefer dihydropyridines, because they have no effect on the cardiac depressant. They are not having a cardiac depressant action. That is why dihydropyridines are preferred. They are vasoselective. Third, cardiac arrhythmias. So if you see the classification of antiarrhythmic, they come under the class of class 4. So as I told previously, they reduce AV conduction, because in AV conduction there is a role of opening of calcium channels. So where these can be used? Verapamil is used to terminate PSVT. PSVT is the paroxysmal supraventricular arrhythmia. Other drugs which can be used in the PSVT, we can use beta blockers or the adrenaline, or we can use the verapamil. Cardiac hypertrophy, cardiac myopathy. Myopathy means it is a disease of the muscles of the heart. Hypertrophy, increase in the mass. Actually what happens is that there is a massive increase in the mass of the heart. There is a hypertrophy. As a result, heart becomes stiff. Okay, increase in the stiffness. So if the heart becomes stiff, so the diastolic functions are impaired. Filling of the heart will not take place. Okay, if the filling is not taking place, how it will lead to contraction? How the blood will be pumped, because it is not filled. So if you give verapamil like drugs, they produce a relaxation of the heart muscles. As a result, they improve the filling of the heart during the diastole. If filling is improved, then cardiac output is improved and there is some improvement in the condition. Okay, so this is the use in the cardiomyopathy. Raynaud's phenomenon. This is the phenomenon that happens sometime, but in some persons there is a vasoconstriction of the peripheral arteries in the fingers, or you can say in the feet or the arms, particularly in the cold. Because of this vasoconstriction, the hand become blue. Okay, and so you can give calcium channel blockers because they produce vasodilation and overcome the vasospasm in the peripheral arteries in the fingers, in the hands or the feet. Felodipine is approved drug for this purpose in the Raynaud's phenomenon. And felodipine is a long-acting drug. Other uses: tocolytic, because it terminates the premature labor, because it produces the uterine relaxation. Nifedipine can be used for this purpose. Then another use: subarachnoid hemorrhage or ruptured intracranial aneurysm. What it is mean? There is some hemorrhage in the brain, either in this region, subarachnoid region, or there is some aneurysm and that aneurysm has ruptured. If any kind of the hemorrhage has taken place, there is a cerebral vasospasm, contraction of the arteries of the brain. So that will lead to neurological deficits, neurological problems. So in order to overcome these neurological problems, we can give this drug, nimodipine. Nimodipine is given for prevention and treatment. Why nimodipine? Because this has a very high selectivity for the cerebral blood vessel. It is particularly useful for the blood vessels of the brain. Nimodipine. Now, in just 2 or 3 slides, I will discuss some special properties of calcium channel blockers, like nifedipine. Nifedipine has a fast onset. It is short acting, so it produces sharp fall in the BP. As a result, it produces the reflex tachycardia. And as such, nifedipine is not preferred nowadays. Either we give some other drugs or we make some pharmaceutical alterations in nifedipine. You make a slow acting drug, extended release like, okay, then you can give nifedipine. Then amlodipine. Now it is made so as to decrease the onset, slow onset, because its absorption is slow. So there is no sharp fall in the BP and hence there is no reflex tachycardia. And one of the most popular calcium channel blockers. Its enantiomer is also available, S-enantiomer, which has almost double the potency of the amlodipine, more potent, and it has lesser side effect of the ankle edema. Then felodipine, as I told previously, felodipine is approved for the Raynaud's phenomenon. Nitrendipine. Nitrendipine has some additional actions, like it releases nitric oxide from the endothelium. It inhibits phosphodiesterase. As a result, it increases CMP. So it decreases the atherosclerosis and it can be used in the hypertension and angina. Cilnidipine. It has double role. It blocks N-type calcium channel blockers, it blocks T-type calcium channel blockers. Nimodipine. It has very high selectivity for the blood vessels of the brain. So it is used in the cerebral vasospasm, as I told. Nicardipine. It can be used in the hypertension emergencies when there is a very high increase in the blood pressure, okay, in the form of intravenous. Then other long-acting calcium channel blockers which can be used once daily, lecidipine, lercanidipine and benidipine. These are long-acting calcium channel blockers. Now, this is what I wanted to discuss with you in the calcium channel blocker section. In the upcoming video, I will.
ਲਾਸਟ ਅਪਕਮਿੰਗ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮੈਕਸਿਮਮ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਹੈ, ਹੁਣ ਇਹ ਸਟਾਪ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ। ਇਟ ਮੀਨਸ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅਪਕਮਿੰਗ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਵਾਲੀ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਤੋਂ ਬਣਾਉਣੀ ਪਏਗੀ।
खत्म हो गया मतलब
ਦੋ ਸਪਲਿਟ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਹੈ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮੈਕਸਿਮਮ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ, ਹੁਣ ਹੋਰ ਸਪਲਿਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਤਿੰਨ ਚ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ। ਦੇਖ ਲਓ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ, ਜੇ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ ਹੈ ਬਣਾ ਲਓ, ਫਿਰ ਜੇ ਕੱਟਣੀ ਹੋਈ ਤਾਂ ਕੱਟ ਲੈ। ਬੋਲੋ
ਹੋ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੀ, ਫਿਰ ਕੀ ਫਾਇਦਾ?
ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਤੋਂ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ।
ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਲਾਸਟ